Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
When we think about life in general, things holding us back, we wonder, why am I not further in my life? Why am I in this relationship that really doesn't support me? You're probably being held back by things that you believe, and you don't even know that you believe them because they're deep inside your mind. We're going to look at that today, analyze it a little bit more with a spiritual life coach. He's also a hypnotherapist and also the founder of Imagine Getaways spiritual retreats to Sedona, Arizona. And she's back with us. Rhea Maceris joins us. Rhea, welcome. How are you doing?
Doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. I don't have a limiting belief. You're fantastic. I know. I believe that. And
Well, we can talk about that.
no, I believe that. And I'm that's true. You know, it's funny when you say the word true. I've always heard this, that you should question yourself in beliefs by saying, is it true that? So, is it true that I am not afraid to be alone? Is it true that I have the power to make money? Because it fires off in your brain, making your subconscious think and answer the question. And this just came up. Just I digressed here, but I said the word true and I just remembered that. Have you ever heard that before, saying that phrase?
A variation of those
Okay.
phrases, and that actually moves into the power of our beliefs, because our beliefs are obviously transitioned into our thoughts, and our thoughts are transitioned to our feelings, and that's what we're speaking. So if we have those beliefs, be they negative or positive, oftentimes they're in our unconscious and we're not aware of them. Those are the tricky ones. Those are the ones that have a little bit of the rub, because we're not aware of them. So that's where hypnotherapy plays a beautiful part in the process, because we can dive into and allow some of those unconscious beliefs to come into the surface so that we can see them. And then that's the biggest part of making the transition, is just being aware of them and what they are. Like you acknowledged last time, that power of not good enough. And once you are aware of it, gives you a lot of power. Yes.
Absolutely. How about some examples of those beliefs that some of us have? Some of the major ones that, and it's for many different reasons, but if we were to categorize them, the belief, or the false belief really, of thinking that you're not good enough would be one of them. And it comes from all different reasons why you might be thinking that, or why your subconscious might be believing that. But what are some of the other major ones?
Well, wow, many of them. However, dive into even how those beliefs are created. Because imagine when we're children, we're very young, we're like sponges. We're literally taking in our environment, we're taking in the significant people in our life, we're taking in our experiences, and we're formulating our idea of what our world is based upon that. And of course, we have cyclical dysfunction that's passed down. I mean, I want to believe that our parents did our best, but they were, negative experiences were shared with them. So then we're put in that environment of trying to figure out and navigate who we are based upon our life. And so if someone says something, maybe they're having a bad hair day, for example, and they say, oh, you're stupid, or you're unkind, or you're not friendly, or any of those thoughts, we take them in, being in that spongy nature of, of what we're experiencing, and we take them in and we think they're the truth. And oftentimes, if they're painful, we even bury them even deeper, which is how they go into our unconscious. So by unraveling and allowing a space, and a safe space, most importantly, for those to come out, then once you can see them and be aware of them, ideally, you can change them. And that's where I come in and facilitate the help.
Yeah, and help us realize what is actually going on. It could be, I just thought of one talking to a friend the other day about the friend's mother wasn't very loving. Right, mom, but just didn't have that, oozy love thing going on. Was supportive, but more in a stern kind of colder way. Why? Because her mother was like that. And then my friend realized that
Yeah.
she's kind of that way as well. But didn't connect the dots until she started digging deeper into her background. didn't do hypnotherapy, but she's just starting to see it. And to break that chain probably does need hypnotherapy.
And that would be one example of many stories I've heard from people that feel. And so, how that plays out in our world is we think we're not lovable. If we're not loved by our mother, who is a significant piece in our learning of who we are and how we're loved, if we don't feel that from our own mom, and of course the dad plays a part too, I'm not undermining that position, but
Sure.
the mom's love is so significant. And if we feel our own mom doesn't love us, that can create, to answer your first question about some of the feelings that people are navigating through their life with, and that would be one of them. They don't feel lovable. They don't
Mm.
feel worthy of love. They don't feel good enough. And so it kind of spirals into this negative thought pattern. And so if we're believing that, guess what our life's going to show us?
Exactly. And I just thought of another friend who is in a similar situation and has been through a number of relationships recently. And it's almost as if she's trying to find somebody to love her. And these guys just basically play her and sponge off of her financially because she's looking for somebody to love her. And probably not going to genuinely happen because she's finding the wrong people, putting the wrong energy out there. It just it's a cycle, just continues.
Yes, and there can even be an element of like even like a desperation. Please love me, please love me. And energetically, I think people can feel that to an extent, that needing,
Yes.
so that desperation, and
And
it may
pounce on
work
it.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is so much here that people don't realize. Unfortunately, what's going on based on what happened in their lives. And I'm not faulting any parents because a lot of times it came from their parents. It's generational.
absolutely, absolutely, I agree. And so that those thoughts, those beliefs that are transferred into our thoughts, that's then we're living from that place of negativity, given that, looking at the negative piece obviously, so
Sure.
then we're living from that place, and then that's what we're seeing and experiencing in our life, because everything's energy. We're all connected energetically. And so if I'm, like, for example, if I'm carrying negative thoughts and feelings, that's probably what I'm going to see around in the world around me. And if I'm feeling good and loving and positive, that's what I'm going to be seeing, because that's what I'm feeling inside. So I believe, to create, I mean, to go to the big picture of creating peace on this planet, it all starts with each of us, navigating to be our best within, and being our best friend, our greatest support, et cetera, from the inside.
What a great world this would be if everybody had hypnotherapy. And I really and
I'm
I really
really
mean that.
offer it.
And I really mean that though, because I've had it and it was so impactful. Um, and that's before we met. And it's just if people realize it, and I call it connecting the dots, what happened in your past, which usually is what dictates your future in terms of how you react to people,
Yes.
the energy
Yes.
you put out. I ran into a friend the other day. He's a chiropractor. I stopped by. He's like, let me give you a quick crack. And then we started
Quick
talking.
crack.
It just does. I got a couple of minutes. I'm like, I'm not going to say no. And I said, how's everything going? And he goes, amazing. He goes, fantastic. This guy doesn't try to ooze positivity. It's just there. And he's cracked the code in some ways where he says, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for everything. And he goes, I just started thinking about positive thoughts and being grateful. He goes, and all this stuff just comes to me. All this goodness comes to me. He goes, I'm not even
Wow.
trying. Yeah.
That describes the process that I'm referring to. So imagine bringing your awareness in, becoming aware of what those negative beliefs are. And then translating them into positive. Gratitude is one of the highest vibrational feelings.
Hmm.
Gratitude, self-love, acceptance, those are all powerful, energetic feelings. So when you're feeling gratitude, guess what? It's the example what I was referring to earlier. Then he's going to see experiences of gratitude in his world. He that's great that he
Ah,
described it that way.
and
Yeah.
I've seen it before. He said it kind of loosely before. And just even when I asked him, you see his eyes light up. He's just like, you have no idea. It's just everything's fantastic.
And
And
that must have inspired you, I would imagine.
it did. It did to be more grateful, to practice more
Yes.
gratitude. And
Yes. Yes.
sometimes it's not easy. We go through challenges, and sometimes it's you have to work at it. It's a habit. It becomes a habit.
No, imagine it like this, Steve. It's kind of like training a puppy. A puppy doesn't know how to do all the things that we want it to do, right? But with a consistency and a determination and a day by day practice, bringing in a little love in there,
Yeah.
it's the same way with changing a pattern that we have. If we can create the pattern or the habit, we can also change it to more positive to get the results we want in our own life.
For you working with somebody, does it usually, I mean, you're a spiritual life coach, but hypnotherapy for somebody trying to navigate their life or change their life, uh, does it center back to hypnotherapy?
That's definitely one modality that I use. However,
Okay.
I use a variety. I've been doing this work for over 20 years now, so I feel I have a pulse on the mental health in our world. And so, what I see is that right now, and it's kind of interesting. It kind of changes like fashions. Right now, the big piece that I'm noticing with people is inner child healing. So that's
Mm,
a piece that I offer as well, because as you were talking about your childhood, if we're wounded in our child, like many of us are, because we're all, I mean, human beings are human beings at the end of the day. They have their wounds and we have our issues, et cetera, et cetera. No one's perfect. So when we're coming from that place of confusion or negativity or whatever that process is, it's allowing us, keeping us in that place in the past. So really we're not even allowing ourselves to be in the present. So if we're bringing our negativity from the past into the present, that's what we're going to keep creating. So in
mm.
order to change, you have to do something differently or see yourself differently, see your life differently, which is what I use. So inner child's a big one right now. That I notice is really coming up right now. The hypnotherapy to shift the beliefs absolutely is a big part of it. People wanting to be more of their authentic self. That's a term I often hear too. They want to be
Mm.
more of their truth, which brings in the spiritual element. Because if we're listening to the negativity, it's not as easy to connect with our guides or our higher self, our angels, whatever that version of your spirituality is for you.
How do you know, Rhea, that you've connected with your authentic self?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. For me personally, and I would say it's from what when I continue connecting with clients after I've worked with them, it's a place of, it's almost as if it's just natural and easy and organic. You don't have to try. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be anything. I mean, if of course it's not that you're not going to still try to do things and be your best, but it's a I don't know. It's like a flow. It's just a natural flow.
I'm glad you
That
said that.
makes sense.
I'm glad you said that because before you did, I was going to say it's like things flow. It just goes. It's
Yes.
okay. There's no, of course, we have challenges every from time and again, but life just flows. You go to work. This is great. I enjoy it. All good. You go on to the next thing. Maybe you take your kids someplace after work. It's all good. Everything feels like it's in place.
And I would even want to add to that as well. Absolutely, yes. And even if and when a challenge happens, because life happens,
Yeah.
life still happens, that my intention and what I support my clients is to be able to look at it through new eyes. Okay, I may not like this, but
Yep.
I'm going to trust there's some learning, there's some growth for my evolution in this process. Instead
Hmm.
of going down the rabbit hole of judging it as wrong, being angry, hurting, and then hurting someone, which is what we do until we become more aware. Makes
Trust
sense?
is a great word. Trust is a great word because
Yes.
I
Yes.
believe when you've found your authentic self, your trust level in yourself is elevated. You're just,
Thank you.
you
Yeah.
you don't overthink things. It's just like, yeah, that's good. Where if you're not fully in alignment or things are slightly out of balance, you worry about things, you don't have the same kind of faith in yourself. I guess it's balance is another great word. Like everything feels like it's in balance around you.
And I really appreciate that you said that it's a trust in yourself, because oftentimes clients, they want to trust others, which of course we want to trust others. And I believe the ultimate trust is that I can trust that I can handle whatever anyone else does, because I'm
Yeah.
working on being myself instead of trying to control around me or change someone so I feel comfortable. It's
Yeah.
finding that inner trust so that whatever you do or say, I can be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And
or
and
anyone.
it's like nobody can pull the proverbial rug from underneath you because you're
Yes,
good.
yes.
Everybody, it happens. You might like bounce off the rug, but you're not going to and fall because yeah, I got this.
And when we're in the flow, we start riding the rug.
Yeah, like the magic carpet. You're on the
Yeah.
magic carpet, just kind of flowing along there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Uh, let's go back to beliefs for a moment. When
Sure.
you think there's something in your childhood that may be holding you back now, if you're thinking there is there usually something there? If you're having that premonition, if you're having that thought that maybe the way you were treated as a child, or maybe the way things went for you as a child, if you're thinking it, is it usually actually something that's probably there?
I would trust, yes, that they
Mm,
trust that feeling in themselves.
okay,
Absolutely. Yeah, because why would that even come into their thinking
right.
unless there were an element of truth to it? So yes, I would say I'm sure there are exceptions, but for the most part, yes.
I love visuals, so when I think that, it's almost as if somebody's thinking, let's say this is the situation from when they were a child. And as they're thinking about it, it's coming up in their mind, but they've squashed it all along the years because maybe it was hurtful. And now it's just kind of popping up and now it's back down. When you work with them through hypnotherapy, you bring it more to the forefront and you bring it here instead of here buried to a more conscious level, not where it's hurtful or emotional. It's just there's awareness of that's why I'm like this over here. So now I can work on it.
Yes, yes. And actually I have a story about a woman. Would it be okay to share that?
Please.
She actually, a woman from Canada, obviously no names or anything, but she came in because she had a heart attack. And so in her mind, she has something physical that's happening, which obviously she is. But as we started going deeper into it and using the hypnotherapy, we unraveled an entire childhood of hers where she was being sexually abused from ages 4 through 18. This was unraveled over a period of time. Obviously, she had absolutely no awareness of it. She had no remembrance of it. Um, but as we started going into their inner world, it all started coming up and all the details and all the feelings and all the emotions. So that's how amazingly powerful our brain is, to be able to bury all of that information for all those years. And when she came to me, she was in her, I think she was in her mid 50s. So that's a long time to have something buried that deeply.
Mm,
So if someone has an inclination or a feeling like you were asking, yes, there's
wow.
some. I mean, she thought she was coming in for something physical, which it was physical. Her heart couldn't, it's almost like her heart couldn't handle it any longer. It, wanted to be expressed or released from all of this.
Mm.
But that was amazingly powerful.
I have to ask this question. Was it somewhat traumatic in going back and realizing what had taken place?
Yes, it was for her.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And it was almost like the little girl that had to become invisible and quiet. She needed to be able to let that out. She needed to be able to cry and to emote and let the trauma of all that come out. So obviously that's the importance of the safe space again,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
there as the many different roles that I play.
Well, yeah. And I have to believe when somebody does a session two more with you, that you're available if things pop up along the way.
Emotionally, physically, spiritual. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel very honored to be able to be there for them during such a moving, a powerful place in her life. And it changed her life entirely. She was a very successful woman, happily married, children. I mean, living the quote American dream. She was in Canada, but the American dream idea. And underneath was all of this. And she has, I mean, I just heard from her again this morning. She's doing so much better
Well,
and considering writing a book about it, even.
mm, yeah, I have to believe also that she wasn't really living her real life.
Yes.
She was living it, but maybe there were pieces of it that were a lie. And she was maybe overcompensating here or over there. Uh, her acceptance being an enabler. It's just so many different scenarios that could play out. And
Yes.
every day dealing with all of that, just dealing with not just, I just want to be me. What do you want to be? And you want to be me.
And interestingly, too, also in line with what you're saying, her body even gained a lot of weight as protection.
Which I've heard that before too.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Right,
You know,
right.
many layers to who we are. Yeah, we're amazing. There's,
And
we're very amazingly complex beings.
I'm not the coach, I'm not the therapist, but I also have to imagine too in her relationship partnership, there probably were challenges there, and maybe her, if she was married, maybe her husband he didn't know about her past, but maybe he was supportive in what she was presenting, but all she was doing was dealing with the past, not knowing that she was dealing with the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The reason I brought up a second ago that you're available when somebody has a session or does work with you, had a relative who did hypnotherapy with someone. And after the first session, you know, she got very emotional. And it was,
Yes.
yeah, sometimes it can be, but that's a good thing because it's you're healing. Um, but the therapist didn't even tell her that, you might feel a little, a little emotional along the way there until we get together again. And wasn't really there for her. And it's so important because we don't, hey,
So important. Yeah.
you don't know what to expect. And that's not to say every time somebody goes through a hypnotherapy session, it's going to be like that. Maybe the beginning, depending on what it is, might be. My session was emotional, definitely was, in a good way.
Pull out a few Kleenexes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
And
that's generally the way it goes. It's going to open up something that hasn't had the opportunity to express itself, whatever that may be.
and I believe I have a recording of it because it was a Zoom. Never listened to it because I don't need to, because I got it. I already figured it out. Some would say, well, you probably should listen again. I don't think I need to. And I will say the entire time, my eyes were closed. Like I didn't even, because I wanted to do the visuals of going back, seeing
Yes.
myself as a child. Uh,
Yeah.
Probably should do some more sessions. Can't, it's all, you look at it this way. How many years it took you to get to where you are now, especially in the case of the woman from Canada, uh, takes more than one, two, three sessions sometimes to figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I like when you mentioned the visuals, and because that's part of the inner child
Oh
is
yeah.
it's actually meeting the child, connecting and agreeing that you're going to support each other, which
Yes.
brings the awareness to themselves and can incorporate the self-love piece.
Well, there's a term that's getting very popular, or maybe coming back around again, called reparenting. So
Yes,
essentially, we are
yes,
reparenting ourselves. We're being, not to say that our parents did anything wrong. They did the best they could with what they had, which is what they got from their parents,
right, right.
typically. So you're just being your own parent, and,
It's
and
true.
and going
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
How do we reach out to you? How do we find you to start the whole journey?
My my website is imaginegetaways.com. or you can text me at 928-204-0878. And I do have a button on my website for a free discovery call. So if you'd like to call, we can just chat, see if it's a good fit, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, get rid of those beliefs that don't support you and just start believing that you can be your authentic self. And it doesn't take a lot. It takes a phone call, reaching out, and just start the process. And I know that you do we talked before we got on air here, but you do the retreats in Sedona, Arizona. What a way to heal. That's all I can say. What a way to heal. Rhea, thank you so much. I appreciate you and all the insight, and look forward next time we get together.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.